Can you tell me about your husband's family when they first came to the Niles area?
They opened the shop in, I think, just before Alan was born. They got married in 41, I believe.
Who are you speaking of? Their names,
Vicky Lopez, Victoria Lopez, and Al Lopez. Anselmo is his real name, but everyone called him Al. And they started the Niles Flower Shop. And it was first over in what is now Time for Tea, in part of that building.
Mm-hmm.
And then Al had the building that they're in built. He built a series of shops.
The building that they're in, where are they located?
I mean, they were in, excuse me.
Uh-huh. The property where the second place where the Niles Flower Shop was located.
Right. It was 37495 Niles Boulevard. And the building is still there, although the shop is no longer there. When they had it for 50 years, right on the corner. And let's see, I'm trying to remember the year, but I can't. I'm terrible with years. But after they retired, then the shop became a quilt shop. So it's now Color Me Quilts.
Okay.
And they have yarn and fabric there. And then there are also other shops in that building that he built.
Okay. So let's go back to when your husband's family first came, their names, and how many children.
Let's see, Vicky and Al.
Right.
Had, it was Victoria George. Oh, no, that was her mother's, Soares, excuse me, Victoria Soares. And Al Lopez married in, I think it was about 1947. Mm-hmm. And then they had Alan in 1948. And I think that's about when they opened the shop.
Okay. And where were they originally from?
Vicky was from Alvarado area, right on, let's see, I guess it's Fremont Boulevard and Perry, somewhere around Perry Road over there. My husband would know better, but unfortunately he's unable to come today. Mm-hmm. But anyway, they had a home there, and my mother-in-law was the oldest of 6. She had 5 sisters and a brother. And then my father-in-law had 1 brother, and they lived in San Lorenzo on 164th Avenue. And somehow, I forget how they met exactly, Al played ball, and somehow Vicky went to a ball game, and they met. Mm-hmm. And started dating, and the rest is history.
Yes. So when their families came here, were they here for many generations?
I think Grandma Rosie was from over there, wasn't she? Because she could speak Portuguese. Who? Grandma Rosie.
So your mother-in-law's family, parents,
was from Portugal, exactly. And Al's parents, Al's grandmother was definitely from Spain. And his let's see, Alan's one grandmother was over here. The other set was from Salamanca in Spain. And Alan has a cousin that lives in Madrid. And so we went over there, and he took us on a trip of the family and where they were from, and got to see all of that beautiful, beautiful country in Spain.
Yes. And the shop was started by whom? Al
and Vicky.
Okay. In
Niles. In one location, and then they had the building built, and then moved to the other location, which again is now a quilt shop. Al and Vicky moved to Niles, part of Fremont, after we were married. Alan and I got married, and they moved about 3 blocks away.
Okay, so when you got married, so you met Alan
when I was younger, when I was in high school, but we didn't really start dating till after he got out of the Navy.
But Al and Jean bowled for many years at the Holiday Bowl, way before they even
right. And Al wanted me to write Alan when he was in the Navy, but I never did. But when we finally met, it was a good match.
Great. Great.
We'll be married 45 years this July.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So where did you move when you first got married?
I lived at home, and then when I got married in '72, I moved to the house we are now on Plumeria Way, which is right around the corner from where my sister lived on Vanda.
Oh, so you were really close.
Very
so
close.
Then you were truly a Niles in-town resident, or close to town.
Yeah, closer to town. I was always a Niles resident,
Right.
but now I was
Yes.
in town.
And I still love Niles area.
Now she loves it.
It sort of grew on you.
Well,
huh?
because, yeah, we were there so long, you know.
Changed a bit from when you first got there.
Yeah, now they have all antique shops, no more bars.
Oh no, they still have.
It's changed a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, they still have a couple.
Is there anything about the 40s, especially like during the war? I understand there was blackouts and...
Yeah, we did. We had guys that would come around, make sure the lights were out when the siren went off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And didn't they have the Niles sign? Didn't they have to cover up the Niles
Oh
sign?
yeah, they had it
The sign up on the hill.
Oh, yeah.
They had to cover that up, I had heard.
Oh yeah.
And then after the war, there were a lot of...
Two of the boys of my brother-in-laws went in the service.
Oh,
Nick
really?
went in the Navy and Bill was in the Army. My
So-
husband didn't go because he was over 26 years of age. And then the year later we had Janet, so he never had to go.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah,
But he had to go work for defense
he worked in
Yeah.
the shipyards.
Oh,
yeah.
you worked in the shipyards.
Which
Where?
is-
in Alameda.
Okay.
And then he went to work at Wedgwood Stoves in Newark. That was considered okay. see-
Well, actually, they converted. So
Yes.
they were repairing and
They were working in
airplanes. They were
My
working on-
my brother-in-law Nick was in the Navy, and then Jean had to go work. You know, we had to close the factory.
So
during
the
that
war,
time.
you closed the factory.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it was
my
not. It was not.
goodness.
You know, we weren't making anything for the war.
Right, right. So it
And-
was sort of like all of the push was everybody had to
Oh,
either
yeah.
go into service or be in some kind of
Oh yeah,
war effort
yeah.
service.
So Jean and Nick went to work in Alameda in the shipyards, but then they called Nick anyway because he was younger. He was only 24.
And I think that law about all three brothers couldn't go into, one had to stay home, I think, was in place. I'm not sure if it was.
Well, I lost one brother, so the younger one never had to go because he was the sole surviving son.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
my
Aldo.
goodness. So there were a lot of things about the war that affected your family and probably
Oh, yeah.
the Niles community.
It was awful.
So what about rationing and...
Yeah, but we had people that had grocery stores, so we weren't lacking anything.
Mhm.
We always got what we
And
needed.
didn't you always have vegetables? They grew your own vegetables?
Yeah, we had some vegetables. My father-in-law used to do that, yeah.
Okay. So then after the war, it was a very prosperous time for many businesses.
They had to open up again.
So they had to start
Yeah,
all over again,
Mhm.
practically.
and they got a lot of churches, like the Holy Family Mother House. My husband took that tile down,
Oh,
and
yeah.
now
The
they're-
original one that they
the
knocked
original
down.
one. Now they're knocking it.
Didn't they
still
knock it down?
there.
Oh, is it still there? They didn't knock
Yeah.
it down. I thought they were going to knock that one down.
Well, they're going to knock the building. Yeah, they're going to
Oh.
get rid of it now.
I thought they already did.
Yeah, they're building little houses for the nuns.
So,
They sold
Uh,
everything.
yes. So there was a lot of building after the war too.
Yeah,
then, that
yeah.
I guess you're,
And a
company-
lot of churches. They got a lot of churches. So,
okay,
Yeah.
very busy.
and then they did the work themselves.
So did the company, how long did the company,
Well, we sold everything in '74.
and why did you sell?
Well, they were ready to retire.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
It was
sure.
very physical work that they
Oh,
had
sure.
to do. Each tile was done one at a time
Yeah.
on the press. So
Really?
yes, it was very
Yeah.
time consuming, and they had to use the tractor with the I can't think of the name of the kind of tractor with the bucket on it, and
with a lift or something.
yeah, and you had to put all this dirt. You had to put different types of dirt into this particular grinder.
Yeah.
To make it all. You had to put old tile in it too. I mean, there was pulverize it. So they had a whole factory full of things that kilns had to be maintained. You had to watch the temperatures overnight. They had to go down and check the kilns
and all the trims, the fancy to finish off the roof, the ridges. They had to do those by hand.
Yeah, it was very time consuming, and they had to carry these heavy things, so their backs were not very good, and eventually they stopped installing the roofs. They had other roofers install the roofs that they trained to make sure that they did it correctly. It was one of the only tiles that you could walk on if you had to know how to walk on it, so it wouldn't break. There was no other tile roofs like that.
They were guaranteed for a lifetime, and we never had any trouble until the television. And then these guys would go up there and didn't know how and crack, and then the first rain, we'd have to go.
Yeah, fix it.
Until people start fooling around on those roofs.
Yeah, with aerials.
Aerials.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it wouldn't be a problem again.
Yeah.
Right.
No more aerials.
Okay. The 1950s, the flood.
Oh.
Well, the flood was terrible. You know, we had our kilns running, and they had to, turn them off because they would have exploded. And the water, by the railroad, there was like a ditch like this, and the water was almost to the top.
Yes, the water was on the other side of the tracks.
But it hit the other side more than us, and Chuck Kraft.
The Kraft tile.
The Kraft tile
was on the other side of the tracks, and it affected them.
My husband and his brother went over there with our tractor because their tile, whatever they were making, crumbled. And so they had a mess on their hands.
Yeah, and so my uncle and my dad helped them tremendously, the Kraft tile people.
Yeah.
And for
For years we got a lot of nice, beautiful Kraft packages
at Christmas. Yes, we lucked out. The water level went right to the top of the tracks, but never went over.
And Lyle Bueller,
It would have come right
into ours as well.
Lyle Bueller, they were getting water down in the other side of the track ditch. So his mother-in-law went and stayed with my in-laws.
Yeah, a lot of the downtown people stayed with us too, remember?
Yeah. Oh,
It was
terrible.
awful. Just rain. That was before they had the Army Corps of Engineers come and fix the Niles Creek.
And the DiGiulios, Louis, 3 times they had to replace the hardwood floor that it would warp.
Oh, wow, after that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, still the moisture coming
Yeah.
out. Wow. Also in the 50s, Fremont became a city, 1956.
Oh, I don't remember that.
You don't remember too much about that. Niles wasn't too affected by that, other than the police changed, the fire changed from county or volunteer.
Well, the fire chief was Thomas Tadillo, and the family. The house is still there. The daughter lives in it.
She's my best friend.
There were lots of parades and celebrations.
Yes, they still have some in Niles.
Oh, yes. So do you remember any of the
My daughter
parades?
Janet, they started the flea market. Remember?
Yeah, Harry
The
and
first flea
Janet.
market, they started it. My grandson Anthony was only about 6 months old because I remember pushing the stroller.
He was born in 65, April
so
of 65.
That was the first flea market.
Yeah,
that you
they
recall.
started it.
Oh,
They
Yeah,
still have it.
it was either 65 or 66.
They
I'm
still
not-
have it
not
too, the
quite
flea
sure.
market.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But they're the ones that started it.
And in the 50s, there were also various celebrations, and parades.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
remember any of those?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I remember going to the show house to see Charlie Chaplin,
Oh, yeah?
It's movies,
the
movies,
movies. Yeah, the movies, yeah.
Yeah.
not Charlie himself.
And you talked about, your husband owned the
My hu-
Niles Theater?
Yes, my husband's parents bought it.
Parents had the Niles Theater. Did they run it?
have a museum in there now.
Now, I don't know if they ran it. I don't know how that went because we never talked about it. So
Oh, okay.
my husband might know, but
Okay.
they had it, and then it burnt down. I remember going to the theater as a child, but that's all I remember.
Okay, and then in the 60s, there was a lot of renovation. You know, the businessman wanted to clean up the Niles area a little bit more and sort of spruce up the businesses, and so.
Oh, he would know that because he was in the middle of it.
he had to do that to the frontiers.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, he had he had one pharmacy, and then left that. It was very small, and moved to the bigger facility in Niles, both in Niles.
Oh, he had one in Niles.
He had two. Well, he had two different ones in Niles.
The
So
one
those were the first ones.
Walton's.
It was Walton's originally that he had,
That one.
and then I think that's the one they had spruced up Niles, because then he moved to the building that my in-laws owned,
Right next door to
near to the flower shop.
Yeah.
Next door to the flower shop.
Well, one over.
One over.
One over.
Yeah.
Or two over.
Oh,
The building that Al built has first was the flower shop, then there's a smaller shop. It used to be Ellen's Dolls, and then they have a hairdresser, and then the next one, which is now a karate studio, used to be Harry Avila's pharmacy.
Oh,
Rexall,
that's where
Niles.
the karate studio.
yeah.
Karate.
It's where the karate studio
Niles,
is now.
Rexall, yeah.
And then there's a barber shop now on the end unit.
Do you have anything else you'd like to say, either about Niles?
I could tell you something funny that happened.
I would love to hear.
The hotel, Niles Hotel, they made it was a hotel for men. And one night around 10 o'clock, this old lady came in from Oakland and she wanted to spend the night there.
And it was a men's only hotel.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe she wanted to remember fond memories from when she stayed there when she was young.
When was this? Was this
Oh,
about the
God, I
40s or
don't know what
50s?
year that would be. I don't remember that one, but I remember it happening.
Yeah, it's right across the street from the flower shop.
At that time, my husband and
Where-
Al owned the hotel. They were partners in that and Harry Avila too, though they sold it.
The
But-
Niles Hotel.
Yeah.
And that's what's
It's
the name of it
time for tea,
now.
Now,
right, and it was right above time
Right
for
above
tea.
Time for
Yeah.
Tea. Any other stories?
Let's see, there's always been the Joe's Corner.
Oh, there was Gink's Hamburgers.
Ginks?
His name, that was a nickname. Did you ever go there? Yeah, where there was a big pepper tree, and Nicola Quartaroli worked there, and we used to go get burgers there.
That was right downtown also?
Yeah,
I don't remember that, so I
Yeah.
must have been little.
yeah. I think it was where the flower shop is. That's how long ago it was.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
So it's where the flower shop is now?
Well, I mean,
yeah.
the building,
The building?
Yeah.
the Color Me quilts.
Yeah.
How about Big Daddy's or Niles Canyon?
Yeah, Big Daddy's, that,
We used to go there for 3 months when we sold everything and we bought a house up in Kimber Park. And so we used to, in between moving, we used to stop and have dinner at Big Daddy's. That was one of our favorite places.
Really?
it surprised the heck out of me when they closed that and
Yeah.
have not done nothing to that land.
Yeah.
It still amazes me. And then developed the land across the street, which is a horrible nightmare for traffic.
Yeah, getting in and out.
I mean, I can't understand how they let that happen.
Right.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's still accidents waiting to happen all the time.
Oh, yeah, it's a mess.
Totally
period.
annoys me.
At
So you
Niles.
enjoy going to Big Daddy's too?
Absolutely.
sure, we all
all the
did.
time, early morning after going to church, we'd go there for breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was just always
And
the place to
Lucia's
be.
restaurant. Lucia's.
Lucia's
Oh,
was good.
Lucia's restaurant.
Oh,
That-
we went
that
there
was on,
every,
um,
yeah, all
well,
the time. They were
it
like
was
Italian?
our
Were that
friends.
were they owned by Italians?
Yeah,
Yes.
their last name.
It was in, but it wasn't in downtown Niles. It
It
was
was on-
over on, well, what is it, Maori now? Or
I think.
Peralta? I don't know.
Maori or Peralta.
It used to be Peralta. I think they changed that piece to Maori now.
Yeah.
Well, not now,
There's
but a
little
while back.
shopping area there.
Yeah.
But
Let's see, what's there now? Now it's a medical center.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They were very
Cheers.
good friends of ours.
Okay, and International Kitchen?
We went
Yes.
there for lunch. My husband never did, but we had certain things there. We
Yeah,
had
there was, the Niles Rotary had their
Meetings
meetings there
there.
until they tore it down.
Yeah.
You said you were active in Corpus Christi Church?
When I was in high school, they had a choir. The Julio girls were in it, Carol and...
And the Fazios. Was there Rosemary in it?
I'm not sure about Rosemary. Gloria was, and Lorelei,
Oh.
and there was Sharon.
Sharon Uhays, yeah.
Sharon Newhays.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful experience. That we had to put on a fashion show, so it was big time. So it was very special, dressing up as a young lady for the first time.
Well, I have to tell you something funny. My oldest grandson, he was an altar boy. And so when we bought the house, my husband had a big pile of gravel and sand. He jumped on it all day, okay? We didn't know that it was Holy Thursday, that night they were going to serve. And they had to put their feet in water. My husband was ready to crawl under the pew.
He had to say,
Can you imagine the color of that water?
yeah, the altar boys had to put their feet in the water.
Yeah, and you jumped on that pile all day. And he goes, and I even had a hole in my sock. I wonder what Father Clark must have thought about that one. I was telling him that a while back. Do you remember that, Anthony?
Did you go to Niles Canyon for
They went swimming up there. They went,
Elderberry
Yeah.
Park,
yeah,
yes.
You did?
they took swimming lessons.
Yes.
Yeah,
Great, yeah.
Elderberry Park was
Yeah.
wonderful.
yeah.
That surprised me when that all closed up. But one funny thing is when we were in high school, my sister was in high school, nobody knew, she went to Oakland School, and to Bishop O'Dowd, and she had a party at our house, and everyone knew she lived in the sticks, right? In the Niles, in Niles.
In the sticks.
So, to make a long story short, one of the houses there was renting a house to a zoo, a circus, and there was an elephant and some animals there, some lions and things. So when all of them came from Oakland to the party, they see all these elephants and animals. They go, she really does live on the Nile.
In the sticks. No, now down there where the factory was, you wouldn't even know there was fields or big ditches.
Yeah, they had
because
the
there's
big
all
pit where they
houses.
got the dirt
And
from.
they have a temple there now, and it's called not Hillside, Gurdwara.
Well, thank you so much
Well,
for
it's been a
taking the
pleasure
time
meeting
to
all
talk
of
to
you.
us, and
Thank you.